when you live alone. At 85, I am 85 years old, and I live alone. The house is very quiet in the morning. I wake up before the sun most days, not because I set an alarm. My body just doesn't sleep long anymore. The room is dim. The air feels still. For a few seconds, I lie there and listen. There is no one in the kitchen, no footsteps in the hallway, no doors closing, no voices. When you live alone at 85, there is no backup. If I stay in this bed all morning, no one will know. At 25, that sounds like freedom. At 85, it feels different. I sit up slowly. My knees argue with me now. My back needs a moment to remember how to straighten. I place my feet on the floor carefully. I have learned not to rush simple things. When you are young, you move without thinking. When you are old, you think before every movement. I walk to the bathroom, wash my face, look in the mirror. The man looking back at me has lines I don't remember earning. My hair is thin now. My shoulders slope forward, but my eyes are still the same. That part hasn't changed. I go into the kitchen and put the kettle on. The sound of water beginning to boil fills the room. It is louder than it should be. Or maybe the house is just that quiet. I used to complain about noise, children running, phones ringing, television too loud, music from the neighbor's house. Now I understand something. Noise is proof of life happening around you. When the kettle clicks off, the silence returns quickly. It almost feels heavier than before. I make tea, sometimes coffee. I stand at the counter and wait for the steam to rise. It's a small ritual, but it gives shape to the morning. When you live alone, routine is not optional. Routine is structure. Structure is stability. If I do not make my bed, no one will see it. If I skip breakfast, no one will comment. If I ignore the dishes, they will sit there quietly. Discipline becomes private. When I was younger, discipline was about achievement, promotions, providing, winning. Now discipline is about dignity. I make my bed every morning, slowly, carefully, even though no one will step inside this room but me. Because when you live alone at 85, you must be able to command yourself. There is no boss, no spouse reminding you, no child depending on you, just you. After breakfast, I clean the cup immediately. I wipe the counter. I put everything back in its place. Chores are different now. When I was 40, they were interruptions. When I was 60, they were responsibilities. At 85, they are events. Washing dishes is something to do. Sweeping the floor is movement. Taking out the trash is a short walk and fresh air. You don't realize how much of your day used to be filled with people until they are gone. Sometimes I cook something simple. Eggs, rice, soup, nothing complicated. I cut vegetables slowly. I pay attention to the sound of the knife against the board. There is a rhythm to it. When you're young, you chase excitement. When you're old, you appreciate ability, the ability to stand, the ability to cook your own meal, the ability to open a jar without help. Independence becomes sacred. Around midday, the house is brightest. Sunlight comes through the window near the table. Dust floats in the air like tiny drifting stars. I sit there sometimes and just watch it. People think loneliness is about being sad. It isn't always. Sometimes it is just space. Space between sounds. Space between conversations. Space where there used to be someone's laughter. I look at photographs often. They are on a shelf in the living room. My wife when she was young. My children when they still lived here. Birthdays, weddings, a beach trip from decades ago. I don't look at them with anger or even regret most days. I look at them like proof that life happened. When you live alone at 85, memories become companions. But here's something I learned too late. If you did not build good memories when you were young, silence will not be kind to you. There were years I was too busy, too focused on money, too focused on proving myself, too distracted to sit at the table longer than necessary. I thought there would always be more time. You blink, that is the part no one explains clearly enough. You blink, and the house that once felt small feels very large. Sometimes the phone rings, sometimes it doesn't. I do not blame anyone. My children have their own lives, their own responsibilities. I raise them to be independent, and they are, but independence is a strange thing. You work your whole life to build it, then one day you're surrounded by it, and it is very quiet. In the afternoon, I read slowly. I used to read quickly. Now I take my time. I underline sentences. I pause to think. There's no rush. I watch the trees outside, the way the wind moves through them, the way birds land and leave. You begin to notice small things when your world becomes smaller. And here is a truth young people do not like to hear. If you do not learn to enjoy your own thoughts in your 20s, you will struggle deeply in your 80s, because eventually distractions fade. The parties end, the promotions slow down, the social media noise becomes irrelevant. You are left with yourself. I'm fortunate. I made peace with myself in my later years. Not early enough, but early enough. I learned to sit without reaching for something. I learned to reflect without panicking. I learned to forgive myself for mistakes I cannot change. Not everyone does. I have seen men my age who cannot sit still. They turn on the television at full volume just to drown out their own thinking. They avoid quiet like it is an enemy, but quiet is not the enemy. Unresolved regret is. As evening approaches, the light changes. The house feels different. Shadows stretch longer. Sounds from outside become softer. If you built your life well, that quiet will feel peaceful. If you did not, it will feel like a prison. I am 85 years old. I live alone. The house is very quiet, but tonight, as I turn off the lamp and walk carefully back to my bedroom, I do not feel afraid. I feel aware that life moves quickly, aware that every decade compounds, aware that the habits you build at 25 will sit beside you at 85. The door closes softly, the house returns to silence, and in that silence, I am not empty. I am simply here. If this spoke to you, don't wait until you're my age to think about these things. Subscribe, not for me, for the person you're becoming, because time moves quietly, and it does not ask permission